Hello, at the end of a long, busy day, welcome to Slow Night Ancient Tales, here to help you find peaceful rest. Tonight I will be reading a tale by the author Kim Dong-in, titled Seongchung, the Loyal Minister. Set during the reign of King Wija, as the shadows of a falling kingdom grew dark, this is the heavy yet sorrowful story of Seongchung. He was a devoted minister who sacrificed his own life to offer one last desperate plea for his fading country and his wandering king. Just like his agonizing heart shedding tears in a cold prison cell out of fear for his nation. Sometimes we too find ourselves lying awake, weighed down by massive worries beyond our control. But at least for this deep and tranquil night, I hope you can set all those heavy burdens down. Lean into the calm of my voice, find your most comfortable position, and gently close your eyes. Now let us begin tonight's story. Jwapyung Seongchung from Dong-in Yadamjip 2 by Kim Dong-in, Monthly Yadam, July 1935. It was a bleak day that did not feel like spring at all. In the fields, exotic flowers and lush grasses were in full bloom, and all kinds of birds and butterflies fluttered about. By the calendar, it was undeniably spring, but a dark undercurrent flowed through the hearts of the people. It was the third lunar month in the 16th year of King Wija of Baekje. As the earth, frozen by a harsh winter, thawed in the warm spring air, the people of Baekje emerged from their homes, but dark shadows of anxiety lingered on their faces. Spring is usually the season of flowers, capable of melting away ordinary worries, but the sorrow of the Baekje people could not be thawed even by the power of the season. Their anxiety stemmed from one thing: the king's debauchery and the nation's declining strength, coupled with the neighboring kingdom of Silla waiting eagerly to strike. The current king, son of the late King Mu, was a man of extraordinary courage and ambition. When he first ascended the throne, the people truly believed that under this brilliant ruler, the great task of unifying the three kingdoms would be achieved. In his early years, this wise and brave king poured his efforts into strengthening the nation and expanding its territory. Neighboring Silla seemed on the verge of being absorbed by Baekje. He conquered Silla's borders, and massive fortresses like Mihu and Daya surrendered to him. However, after 10 years of glorious achievements, the king grew complacent and gradually slipped into a life of ease. Surrounded by 3,000 concubines, he threw massive banquets every day or went out hunting. Drowning in pleasure, he completely abandoned the affairs of the state. As the government grew corrupt, the nation's strength naturally withered. Silla, which had suffered countless humiliations but dared not fight back while the king was sharp, now saw an opportunity and began preparing for a war of revenge. With the ascension of King Taejong-muyol and the rise of the great General Kim Yu-sin, Silla was no longer a force to be underestimated. Knowing this, anyone in Baekje who cared for their country could not help but worry. Yet, the king did nothing but indulge in daily revelry. Thus the people lived in fear, and the gloomy chill of winter never truly left their faces, even in the vibrant spring. Despite the grim public mood, peach and apricot blossoms proudly displayed their brilliant colors over the fences of civilian homes. Riding past them with a somber face was Seongchung, Baekje's chief minister Jwapyung. Brushing his white hair, which fluttered in the gentle spring breeze, he urged his horse toward the palace. He was on his way to make one last desperate plea to the king, who was lost in wine and women. He had tried many times before, but today he was resolved to offer a final warning, even if it cost him his life. He had already bid farewell to his family and left his final wishes with his children. If the king accepted his counsel, there would be no greater joy. If not, this would be his final journey. The fluttering flower branches would be his last sight. The saddle of his beloved horse would be his last. Even the bright sun and moon would be seen for the last time. Though he did not regret giving his life for his country, the thought that this might be his final path filled the old minister with a profound loneliness. As he lifted his quiet eyes to look at the flowers, faint traces of tears welled up. "Your Majesty." In the royal court, where the king was once again surrounded by palace women and immersed in pleasure, Seongchung fell to his knees. Tears rained down his face. "Oh, Jwapyung, welcome. You came at just the right time." "I was getting bored," the king said, though his face clearly showed annoyance. He was obviously dreading whatever nagging speech the old minister had prepared. Someone, pour a drink for the Jwapyung. Omeon Jwapyung, take a cup of wine in this beautiful season of blooming flowers and singing birds. A palace maid brought a cup of wine to Seongchung. He glared at her, and as she shrank back, he turned his piercing gaze to the king. Your Majesty. Knowing exactly what was coming, the king tried to avoid him. He feigned severe intoxication. Ah, I am so drunk. Someone, bring me a lap to rest on. He prepared to lie down right there on the floor. A maid rushed forward to offer her lap for the king's head. But Seongchung knew the king's heart. The king was not actually drunk enough to pass out. He was faking it to ignore him. Seongchung shuffled forward on his knees, shoved the maid aside, and offered his own lap. This old man's lap is dirty and bony, but it is my lap, Your Majesty. Please rest here. He forced his knees under the king's head. Time passed in the quiet hall. The old minister sat perfectly upright, 1,000 thoughts racing through his mind. He remembered when this very king had conquered 40 provinces of Silla, an unstoppable commander whose enemies fell before him. For nearly 700 years since its founding, Baekje had never been as glorious as in this king's early years. But look at the state of things now. Silla and Tang were plotting a joint invasion, yet the king was lost in wine and women. As a loyal subject, he had to guide the king back to the right path. Remembering the immense grace he had received from the previous king, he resolved, I am old. I do not fear death. I will lay down this old head to be a stepping stone for Baekje. The king kept his eyes shut, pretending to be asleep. Why does the king avoid me so? Seongchung thought. I only do this for the sake of the country. As more time passed, Seongchung's legs went completely numb. The physical pain was excruciating, but the emotional pain of the king ignoring his sincere heart was worse. Tears welled up in his eyes, and finally a single teardrop fell. Splash! The tear landed squarely on the king's forehead. The king, who had been deeply asleep, suddenly bolted upright, wiping his forehead with his sleeve. Ugh, disgusting! The king's eyes were terrifying as he glared at the startled old minister. Disgusting! Dripping snot on me, Your Majesty. Someone bring water! The Jwapyung blew snot on me. Disgusting, insolent wretch. Your Majesty, it is not snot, it is my tears. The king violently scrubbed his face with the water brought by the maids and stood up to leave for his inner chambers. Seongchung knew he could not let him go. If he lost the king now, he would never get another chance. He lunged forward and grabbed the king's sleeve with a death grip. Your Majesty, let go of my sleeve at once. I cannot. Please, sit down for just a moment. Someone dragged the Jwapyung out. As the maids rushed in, Seongchung turned and roared with quiet authority. Back away. The maids froze. Seongchung stood up, his posture dominating and commanding. Your Majesty, please calm yourself and listen to my plea. No, this is not my plea. It is the dying wish of the late king. Have you forgotten? When the late king was on his deathbed, he called me in, entrusted you to me, and told you to rely on me when times were hard. By that sacred decree, I speak to you now. Wake up. The 700-year legacy of Baekje is in danger. Stop drinking. Stop chasing women. Prepare our defenses against Silla and Tang. If you do not wake up now, you will leave behind a regret that lasts 1,000 years. Having poured out his soul, the old minister stepped back, fell to his knees, and wept uncontrollably. As a result, Seongchung was thrown into the royal prison. His crimes were dropping bodily fluids on the king's face, disobeying a royal command, yelling at the king, and disturbing the public peace with demonic words. With Seongchung gone, the court was completely emptied of loyal men. Those who remained were sycophants, and the capable officials fled to the countries that ID to farm. A dark cloud covered Baekje. In prison, Seongchung's old body was broken and torn from brutal torture. Yet he could only think of the nation. He knew a massive war was coming. He could no longer eat or sleep, and he was so weak he could barely move a finger. He knew he would die within days. Through the prison bars, he could see a distant flower branch. Spring, he thought. When will spring ever come to the hearts of our people? One morning, Seongchung painfully dragged himself up. His broken leg bones protruded against his skin. He managed to face north, bowed clumsily, and took off his inner garment, spreading it before him. He then bit down hard on his finger until hot blood dripped from it. Using his own blood, he wrote his final petition to the king. a final petition to your majesty. Though you may have forgotten me, I cannot forget you. A great war is imminent. We must defend the Tanyeon Pass by land and the Gyebaek port by sea. Even if you cannot leave your banquets, please order General Gyebaek to fortify these two routes. If you do this, I can close my eyes in peace. I am losing consciousness. Long live the king. I will pray for Baekje from the afterlife. When the blood dried, he bit his finger again. He wanted to write a letter to General Gyebaek too, but he had no strength left. He handed the bloody shirt to the jailer and collapsed quietly. When the blood-stained letter reached the palace, the king was in the middle of a massive garden party. Startled by the wet blood, the king threw it away in disgust. What is this filth? Throw it far away. He did not even read a single word of Seongchung's final, desperate plea. General Gyebaek, the old veteran who was on duty that night, heard whispers of what had happened. He was one of the very few loyal men left in the capital. He tracked down the maid who had discarded the bloody garment and retrieved it. Reading the bloody letters of his old friend, the tough general stood in silence, tears streaming down his wrinkled face. Jwapyung Seongchung. As long as Gyebaek lives, I will not let your will be forgotten. Let me go see him. I must hold his hand and comfort him before he closes his eyes. Gyebaek hurried to the royal prison. Open the gates, he commanded. When he stepped inside, he saw Seongchung lying quietly, facing north, his unkempt white hair entirely still. Gyebaek waited for him to move. When he did not, Gyebaek rushed over and shook him, only to find that Seongchung's body was already cold. Hearing a strange noise, the jailer ran in to find the great General Gyebaek clutching Seongchung's lifeless body, stomping his feet, and wailing with the sorrowful roar of a wounded tiger. How did you feel listening to the desperate heart of Seongchung, who worried for his country even as he wrote his final plea in blood, and the sorrowful vow of General Gyebaek, who inherited his will? The fierce loyalty and intense struggles of those in the giant whirlpool of history are best left resting quietly within the story. Now it is time to find your own complete peace. I hope you let all the complex thoughts and worries that troubled your mind today flow far away into the gentle darkness. It is time to drift into the deepest, most comforting sleep. You worked incredibly hard today. Good night, and sleep well.